Welcome to another deep dive. Today we'll be looking at nature and technology and the human experience.
Yeah, a fascinating mix here.
We have poems, short stories, and essays, all exploring how we as humans,
Mm.
connect with the natural world. I was just thinking about our last conversation.
Mhm.
When you were talking about how modern writers kind of echo themes from the classics, well, guess what?
What?
We're starting with William Wordsworth.
Oh, wow.
The world is too much with us. It really sets the stage for a lot of what we'll be uncovering.
Yeah, Wordsworth. Well, he was a nature poet, really shaped by the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
And he was, really concerned about how society was becoming more materialistic.
Yeah.
And that comes through very strongly in this poem.
And I love how he uses the sonnet form
Yeah.
to kind of drive that point home.
Mhm.
The sonnet has that classic volta, that turn,
Right.
where the tone shifts.
Yes.
And that's where Wordsworth really hits us with his message. It's like he's saying, hey, we're losing something really important by turning away from nature.
Right.
And there's this one line I just love, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers.
Oh, yeah.
It's like so powerful.
It really is. And, that line really gets at that central tension in the poem.
Yeah.
This feeling that we're so focused on material gain
Mm-hmm.
that we're kind of losing something deeper within us.
Right.
And maybe he's warning us a little bit,
Yeah.
about what happens when we prioritize progress
Yeah.
over our connection to nature.
Exactly. So that brings us to Lorna de Cervantes
Okay.
and her poem, Freeway 280. Now, this is where we see a really different take on this whole human nature thing.
Oh, interesting.
Cervantes is writing from a Chican's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and she uses this image of a freeway cutting through the landscape
Okay.
to explore these themes of displacement and cultural erasure.
Right.
You mentioned in your notes that you're really interested in how different cultures view nature.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think this poem dives right into that.
He does, yeah.
And what I love is how she weaves in Spanish words and phrases.
Oh, nice.
It's like bringing those lived experiences into the language itself.
Mm-hmm.
It just creates this really powerful sense of place and identity.
It does, yeah. Her work often really reflects the experiences of marginalized communities.
Yeah.
And in Freeway 280, it's so interesting how she incorporates those experiences into the very fabric of the poem, highlighting, the complexities of belonging.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so different from Wordsworth, right?
Yeah, it is.
Wordsworth's more romantic.
Hmm.
Here we see nature as, a place of both beauty,
Right.
but also loss.
Yeah.
It's where these personal and cultural histories kind of collide with this changing landscape.
Absolutely. But it's funny, even though they have these totally different views,
Yeah.
both Wordsworth and Cervantes are really asking us to pay attention,
Yeah.
to think about, what we might be losing as the world around us rapidly changes.
Exactly. Yeah. Both poets are really making us think about the cost of progress.
Yeah.
And asking, what really matters when it comes to our relationship with nature, which kind of leads us perfectly into our next poem.
Okay.
Naomi Shihab Nye's Different Ways to Pray. This poem is all about finding the sacred in the everyday.
Ah, yes.
And it does so by really showcasing all these different cultural perspectives.
I like that.
You said you were drawn to the idea of finding the spiritual in unexpected places.
Oh, yeah.
And Nye's poem really gets at that, doesn't it?
It does. And
Yeah.
she has this incredible way of finding the profound
Yeah.
in the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds us that the sacred doesn't have to be, grand or formal or anything like that.
Right.
It can be found in just noticing things.
Yeah.
Appreciating the little things.
Yeah.
Like how the sunlight filters through leaves or the sound of wind chimes
Right.
on a nice breezy day.
Oh, there's this one image in the poem that I just love.
What is it?
Small calcium words uttered in sequence.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that such a powerful way to describe prayer?
It is, yeah.
There's quiet moments when you feel connected to something larger
Yeah.
than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then she contrasts that image with, someone who beat everyone at dominoes.
Oh, interesting.
It's like suggesting that even everyday activities
Yeah.
can have that kind of sacred energy.
They can. It's like she's saying that any act,
Mhm.
no matter how small,
Right.
can be infused with intention and meaning.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful reminder that the sacred can be found anywhere,
Absolutely.
even in our daily routines.
It really makes you think,
Yeah,
what are those everyday moments in your own life that hold that kind of hidden sacredness?
I like that.
But let's switch gears a little bit.
Uh-huh.
and jump into the digital age for a second.
All right.
With Heather McHugh's Webcam the World.
Okay.
Now, this poem explores how technology is shaping the way we experience and document nature, especially in the face of climate change.
Oh, interesting.
You mentioned being concerned about how technology is impacting our connection to nature.
Yeah, I do worry about that.
And I think this poem really gets at that tension.
Oh, good.
McHugh is known for her wit
She is.
and her really sharp observations. And she uses irony in this poem to highlight the pitfalls of our digital obsession.
Right.
In Webcam the World, she asks this question.
Okay.
Can we really capture the essence of nature through a screen?
Ah.
Or are we just creating a fake version, a virtual substitute for the real thing?
Right.
It's such a good question, right?
It is, and it's so relevant.
Yeah.
Especially now when we're constantly documenting everything digitally. It makes you wonder if we're so busy getting that perfect picture.
Right.
That we forget to actually experience the moment.
Yeah.
Just be present.
Exactly. And there's another line in the poem I love.
What is it?
How many pixels till the planet's pixelated?
Oh, wow.
It's like she's warning us that in our rush to document everything, we might be losing sight of the actual experience.
It's a good point.
It is, right. It's a good reminder to put the phone down sometimes and just be in the moment.
Yeah.
But, let's not forget about the emotional side of our connection to nature.
Okay.
And Camille T. Dungy's poem, The Blue, really takes us there.
Right.
She explores these themes of loss
Yeah.
and impermanence and the emotional weight of place.
Right.
And she does it so beautifully. You mentioned that you're drawn to writing that captures those really personal experiences of nature.
Oh, I am, yeah.
And Dungy's poem does that.
Okay.
Masterfully.
It does, yeah. And her work often explores the intersections of race and nature and motherhood. And in The Blue, she uses this free verse style that really mirrors the fluidity of memory and those ever-changing coastlines. It's like the form of the poem itself reflects the shifting nature of our experiences.
And that image of the blue cloth.
Oh, yeah.
It's so poignant, right?
It is.
It represents both the beauty and the fragility of the natural world.
Right.
But it also symbolizes how our memories are kind of woven into the fabric of our lives.
I love that.
And it makes you think about how a simple object can evoke such powerful emotions.
It can.
And connect us to a specific time and place.
Absolutely. Dungy reminds us with that poem that our experiences with nature are deeply personal. They're tied to our own histories, our own identities. The natural world becomes a mirror in a way, reflecting back to us, our joys, our sorrows, the whole complex tapestry of our lives.
And that's just the beginning, folks. We've got so much more to uncover in this deep dive.
We do.
So buckle up and get ready for even more diverse perspectives on nature, technology, and what it means to be human.
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Dungy's poem, with all that talk about loss and change, it really got me thinking about resilience.
Yeah.
It's like nature itself is teaching us how to adapt and persevere.
Yeah, totally.
And that brings us to Oliver Baez Bendorf.
Okay.
And their poem, Evergreen.
Oh, yes. Bendorf, right. They love exploring those connections between personal growth and nature's resilience.
They do.
You mentioned how much that resonates with you.
Yeah.
And evergreen is like the perfect metaphor for that, isn't it?
It is.
The way a tree can survive those harsh winters year after year. It's like a symbol of strength we can all tap into.
Exactly. And, it's more than just a description of a tree.
Right.
It's about endurance.
Yeah.
It's like Bendorf is saying, look, even when things are tough, there's this potential for growth and renewal within us, just like in nature.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
Especially now when things feel so uncertain sometimes.
I agree.
All this talk about resilience in the face of environmental challenges.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Marge Piercy.
Okay.
And her poem, The Air Smelled Dirty.
Right.
She was such a strong advocate for social justice.
He was.
And this poem, it really connects her personal experience to this bigger issue of environmental damage.
Yeah, Piercy was so good at that. Blending personal stories with social commentary.
Right.
And The air smelled dirty. It's a perfect example.
Yeah.
The way she describes her childhood, the smell of coal dust, the feel of it, it's so vivid.
Yeah.
You can practically feel it yourself.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize the impact that pollution has on people's lives.
Absolutely. It's like she's saying, this is what happens when industry comes before people.
Right.
You know, it makes you think about the consequences of those choices.
It does.
How even small things can have this ripple effect on the environment and future generations.
It's true. You know, it's like we're all connected.
Yeah.
And our choices have consequences for everyone. Speaking of using your voice for change, that brings us to Amanda Gorman.
Okay.
And her poem, Our Purpose in Poetry, or Earthrise.
Oh, I love that one.
Me too. It's a call to action.
Yeah.
You know, using art and language to address climate change.
Yeah. She's such a powerful voice.
She is.
Especially for someone so young.
Right.
You know, you mentioned being inspired by young activists who are leading the climate movement. And Gorman's work, it embodies that, doesn't it?
It does. And the poem itself.
Yeah.
It's so full of hope, even when talking about these big, scary challenges.
Yeah. And the title, Earthrise, right? Makes you think of that famous photo of Earth taken from space, that little blue marble hanging there.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're all in this together.
We are.
You know, we share this one precious planet.
We do.
And Gorman doesn't just point out the problems. She offers solutions.
Yeah.
She wants us to see ourselves as caretakers of the earth, responsible for its future.
Right.
There's this one line that really gets me.
Tell me.
To give next generations the planet they deserve.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Isn't it? It's like a call to action.
It is.
A reminder that we have the power to make things better.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it, how we've gone from Wordsworth and his worries about industrialization to Gorman and her message about climate change. It shows how these themes, they change over time, but the core issues, they stay relevant.
They do.
Okay, so speaking of evolving themes, let's switch gears from poetry to a short story that takes us to a dystopian future.
All right, I'm intrigued.
E.M. Forster's The Machine Stops.
Okay.
It explores what happens when technology completely takes over human life.
No, interesting.
And we lose that connection with the natural world. Forster's, you know, writing back in the early 1900s.
Right.
He was so ahead of his time.
Yeah.
His observations about technology, spot on. And in The Machine Stops, he creates this really chilling picture of a world where people live in these isolated pods.
Okay.
And they only interact through screens.
Oh, wow.
It's almost prophetic, considering how much our lives revolve around screens today.
It's kind of eerie, right?
Yeah, it is.
But what really struck me was the character's fear of the outside world.
Oh, right.
Their total aversion to nature. It makes you wonder, are we headed down that same path?
That's a good question.
You know, becoming so dependent on tech that we lose touch with nature completely.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
Yeah.
Forster seems to be saying, don't sacrifice real human connection and our bond with nature for the convenience of technology.
Makes you want to go for a hike, doesn't it?
It does.
You know, get away from the screens for a bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting away,
okay,
let's look at E.B. White's Once More to the Lake.
Oh, yes.
Such a classic.
It is.
It's this beautiful reflection on childhood spent by a lake.
Right.
And you know that realization that even our favorite places, they change over time.
They do. It's a meditation on time, really.
Yeah.
And Memory White, he goes back to this lake with his son.
Right.
Hoping to relive those perfect summer days from his own childhood. But then he sees his son experiencing the same joys and frustrations.
Right.
And he realizes time moves forward.
Yeah.
Nothing stays the same.
It's kind of bittersweet, isn't it?
It's
that feeling of nostalgia,
yeah,
but also acknowledging that change is inevitable. And it makes you think about the changes we see in nature too, right?
Absolutely.
Just like the lake, our relationship with the natural world, it evolves too.
It does. And speaking of change, let's talk about a story that deals with environmental issues.
Okay.
But with a sense of humor.
All right. I like where this is going.
Terry Bisson's The Toxic Donut.
Oh, Bisson, right. He's great at satire.
He is.
Especially when it comes to science fiction. He uses humor and exaggeration to really highlight how ridiculous we can be when it comes to the environment.
Exactly.
So in The Toxic Donut, he creates this community that's basically a dumping ground for all this hazardous waste.
Wow.
And the title itself, The Toxic Donut.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect metaphor, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think he means by it?
Well, I think it represents how we try to ignore the consequences of our actions, you know, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
But Bisson, he makes us confront that, that uncomfortable truth that we're all contributing to these toxic landscapes.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
But, you know, for a different perspective
on
our connection to the land, let's look at Robin Wall Kimmerer's Epiphany in the Beans.
Kimmerer, I love her work.
Me too. She's such an inspiration.
So is.
A botanist, a writer, and a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation.
Right.
She brings this unique blend
Yeah.
of science and indigenous wisdom to her writing.
And in Epiphany in the Beans, she talks about finding the secret of happiness while picking beans in her garden.
That's beautiful.
Isn't it? And it's not about, you know, material wealth or personal gain.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected, that our well-being depends on the well-being of the earth.
It's true.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about feeling that sense of peace. When you're out in nature, it's like Kimmer is saying true happiness comes from understanding our place within the web of life.
Exactly.
And you know that metaphor she uses?
Yeah, which one?
The three sisters.
Oh, right.
Corn, beans, and squash planted together. They support each other.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful image of interdependence and that reciprocity that should guide our relationship with nature.
It should.
You know, it's a reminder that we're not separate from nature. We're a part of it.
And when we harm the environment, we're ultimately harming ourselves.
Exactly.
It's a message that comes up again and again.
Yeah, it does in these works. It does. But let's not end on a downer.
Okay.
We have one more stop on our journey today.
All right.
And it takes us to space.
Space.
Mass exploration.
Wow. Okay.
And the future of food. We're ending our deep dive with Cheng Qifan's Space Leak.
Okay.
You know, you were saying how much you love sci-fi, especially how it explores, you know, what it means to be human.
Right, right.
This story, it really does that. But with this really interesting focus on food.
Oh, wow.
And our connection to home.
I like that.
Cheng Qifan, he's a Chinese sci-fi writer. And his work often looks at how technology and humanity kind of intersect.
That's so relevant.
And in Space Leak, he imagines this future where humans have gone out into space. But even with all this amazing tech, we still see how strongly we're connected to Earth.
Oh, interesting.
And to nature. It's fascinating how a simple leak can become such a powerful symbol.
It is.
So in the story, we have this astrobotanist.
Okay.
And she's given this task to grow a leak in space.
Interesting.
And as she's trying to do this, she starts thinking about all these big questions.
Like what?
You know, like identity.
Okay.
Belonging. What does it really mean to call a place home?
I see.
And that leak, it becomes like this physical connection back to Earth.
Right.
You know, a reminder of where we came from, what sustains us.
And Cheng Qifan.
Yeah.
The way he writes about the character's feelings.
Yeah.
You know, her longing for Earth, the familiar sights and smells.
Yeah.
It really makes you connect with that human need for connection, for roots.
Absolutely. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About how even when we're exploring new worlds, we still carry those essential parts of ourselves, those connections to nature and the places we call home.
And what's really cool is how the ending, it's kind of ambiguous. It makes you wonder about the possibilities, but also the challenges of creating a sustainable future.
Right. Not just on Earth, but maybe even beyond.
Exactly. It's like he's asking us, what will we bring with us? You know, as we venture into the unknown, how will we hold on to those connections to our past, to the natural world?
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
It is.
As we kind of wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are your biggest takeaways?
Well, I think for me, it's that theme of interconnectedness.
Oh, yeah.
Keeps coming up. From Wordsworth and his worries about materialism,
Right.
all the way to Gorman and her call to action, Kimmerer's indigenous knowledge, Chen Qifan's vision of the future.
Yeah.
It all points to the same idea.
And what's that?
That our actions, our relationship with technology,
right,
and our connection to nature, they're all woven together.
Yeah, it's like a giant web, right?
Exactly.
And we each have a role to play in how that web takes shape.
And I think these writers, they give us this chance to step back, to see our place within that web.
It's about looking at things from different angles, isn't it?
It is.
And asking ourselves, how can we live in a way that honors both our needs and the needs of the planet?
Exactly. It's not about finding the perfect answer.
Right.
It's about asking the questions, learning, growing.
Who knows? Maybe listening to this will even change how you interact with nature.
It could, in your own life.
Literature has this power, doesn't it?
It does.
To open our minds, make us see things differently, maybe even inspire us to act.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
I hope these conversations have inspired you to see the world in a new way.
Me too.
To appreciate the beauty and complexity of nature, and to think critically about our role in shaping the future.
Absolutely.
And remember, there's always more to explore.
More to learn and more to discover. So keep reading, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into those amazing worlds that literature has to offer. Until next time.